Alright, hello everyone, it's Silver Kyle here, and today I'd like to talk about HD collections. Now I just found out that Square Enix is going to be releasing Kingdom Hearts to the PlayStation 3 in an HD compilation of 3 video games. It will include Kingdom Hearts 1, Chains of Memories, and 358.5 Days. Now they're calling this the Kingdom Hearts 1.5 HD collection, and some people are upset because it doesn't include Kingdom Hearts 2. Now, this makes sense in a way because it looks like they're going to be going with, the 1.5 collection, which consists of Kingdom Hearts 1 and the following games chronologically, and then following that up with another collection of games called the 2.5 collection or something like that, with Kingdom Hearts 2 and the other games. Now, that makes sense because that's how the storyline would go chronologically, and it also makes sense in a business way because it allows Square Enix to release 2 games instead of 1, making more money for them. Now, that's the whole point of HD collections. It's basically to make more money. They go to a game that has a large fan base, or a series that has a big fan base, that was released a few years ago, or quite a few years ago, and they remake it in an HD way because people like to play old games, and if they can play it with better graphics, they're even happier. So if you can put it on the PlayStation 3 or the Xbox 360, both HD consoles, people are happy and they will buy the game. Now, that got me thinking, if Square Enix is making HD collections, why haven't they remade Final Fantasy VII? Final Fantasy VII is like the biggest game that people want to see remade. Fans have been crying for this for years, basically ever since the game was made. They were like, make a Final Fantasy remake, just do it, even if it's like the PlayStation 1 again. They don't care, it hasn't been that bad, but like basically ever since the PlayStation 2 era, people were starting to say, why don't they remake this game? Then the PlayStation 3 hit, and we saw like a glimpse of a possible Final Fantasy VII remake for the PlayStation 3, and people went wild. People went crazy. That was years ago, and it was just insane how many people were freaking out, and they never followed up with it. I don't know why. Final Fantasy VII is like the biggest game that I can't even think of another game that even comes close to the fan base that they have, that people want to see a remake of the game. There are other games that have big fan bases or cult followings and they want to see a remake. For example, Legend of Dragoon. I would kill to have a Legend of Dragoon remade, but there's not as many people interested in that game as a Final Fantasy VII remake. Final Fantasy VII did so well on the PlayStation. It almost sold 10 million copies. It's like 9.7 million or something like that worldwide. And the only game to beat it in sales was Gran Turismo. So if you're looking at almost 10 million sales back in, the late 90s, early 2000s for a game, can you even imagine how many people would be willing to rebuy it at this point and how many more people would be buying it? At this point, gaming was not even close to what it is back then. PlayStation 1 was like, it was just starting to become popular. PlayStation 2 and the Xbox and the GameCube got even a little bit more popular, and then the Xbox 360, PS3, and the Wii, it just boomed. It's like everybody has played, video games, and usually a household has some kind of console in it nowadays. So a Final Fantasy VII remake would just sell like mad. It's insane how much it would sell. And then if you're just, okay, they're remaking games and they're making HD collections, you're like, well, why don't you make Final Fantasy VII? The remake. You can make it a ton more money. And then you also look, okay, well, what else is Square Enix doing other than HD collections? Because maybe they're a bit busy. Well, they're making other series, like Final Fantasy XIII, for example. Okay, that sold, 6.5 million units worldwide for the Xbox 360 and the PS3 combined. And, they're also making sequels to that game. They're making sequels to a game that only sold 6.5 million worldwide on both consoles. And they're making Final Fantasy 13-2 and 13-3. Okay, why not Final Fantasy VII? Final Fantasy VII sold more than 13 did, and people, if you remake the game in HD, okay, people will buy it. You'll be introducing it to a whole new audience. You'll have the core fan base who has been dying for this remake that will buy it. Then you'll also have people that, are much younger and didn't have the chance to play the game. And they won't go back to it because, for one, it might be hard for them to find a PlayStation or a PlayStation 2 that will play the game. And they might not be able to, play with graphics like that. I'm not one of those people. I don't need amazing graphics. I can go back and play video games. And it's too bad that some people can't, but it's understandable. They're too used to the amazing graphics of today. But if you remade it in HD, they will go out and they will buy it. That way you have a new audience plus the old audience buying this game, and then you can make sequels. to a game that I don't think people would have that much of a backlash. Final Fantasy VII is one of the only games that you could remake and make sequels to and people wouldn't be upset, as long as the sequel and the remake are good quality. So it makes no sense for Square Enix to not do it. I really have no idea. If it costs too much, you're making HD remakes for all these other games, you're making sequels to games that didn't sell as well, and if it costs too much for the PlayStation 3 or an Xbox 360, make it for the Vita. Sony is having a hard time selling the Vita, and if you made it for the Vita, for one, you would make a ton by the people buying it, and it would move that handheld console. So it would be a win-win situation for Sony. I don't know why the Sony executives are not thinking of this, or Square Enix. You know, we could remake that Final Fantasy VII for the Vita, exclusive for the Vita, you know, and that way you could sell more because it will push people to go out and buy the Vita. It just doesn't make sense, and I don't understand why. The only thing that I could think of is perhaps they're waiting for the PlayStation 4. Now, if they are planning on making the Final Fantasy VII for the PlayStation 4, the remake, and they plan on making like a launch window game or like the, you know, launch title, I can kind of understand that because that would push that system. Everybody would be going out to buy the PlayStation 4, even if it was like a crazy amount like the PlayStation 3 was. People would be like, yeah, we don't really want to spend $700, but that has Final Fantasy VII, the remake. And I have to. I have no choice. I'm going to go get a loan, you know, a second mortgage on my house, and I'm going to go buy this. That's the only thing that I could see. So anyway, that was my little rant on HD collections and Square Enix and Final Fantasy VII. But I'm just hoping that we see a Final Fantasy VII remake at some point, and not, you know, 20 years from now. We've already almost waited, you know, we're at 15 years now. Just make it.